And I'll let you handle the computer because I know you're a computer wizard.
I am the computer wizard.
Yeah, like that new is that wizard? That's you.
Yeah. So this is our foray into the EDH content creation sphere. Oh my god, Chonk's trying to break into the room.
Cat's trying to break in and interrupt it. Very cool.
So this is going to be kind of disorganized, but my name is Elijah Samuelson.
I'm Spencer Cook. Fuck you.
And I am joined here with politics master Spencer Cook.
Yeah, it's very true.
And we're just going to talk about some Zendikar Rising today.
Yeah.
And give our EDH takes, which is... that's going to be the name of the show.
It's kind of a cute thing there.
Yeah. So we figured we're going to start with the legendary creatures from the set first. There's a lot of them, and most of them are kind of bad. So we picked out some that we think are worth talking about and not worth just saying, don't play this, it's bad.
Pretty much.
So it's kind of sorted by Wooburg, but we cut out some stuff. So we're going to start with Tazri, Beacon of Unity. She is a 4 and a white legendary creature. human soldier, I think.
Yeah.
She's a human soldier. And
it costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So if you have 4 creatures in your party, it's like a 1-drop.
Oh,
wow.
She's a human warrior.
Yeah.
So she is a member of your party.
But not when it's in the command zone. Just so it's gonna probably cost one less if you got one thing, whatever. But it's got an activate ability. It says oh god, how do I even say these?
For either 2 colorless or a hybrid of a color. For all the colors except for white.
So 8 total or 4 of the non-white colors.
Yeah, you look at the end. So what do you think, Spencer Cook?
Well, I mean, outside of the obvious, commander of a party deck, which it's probably not going to be very good, but like you could play a party deck if you want to. Like obviously this is pretty clearly the commander you'd play, but outside of that, like. It kind of doesn't do anything except for like the incidental like wizards or warriors you might have in your deck. The only thing that's like interesting about it is like obviously with infinite mana it's like an outlet for you to use your mana to like get some combo piece or something. But like overall it seems kind of uninteresting for anything other than like a dedicated party deck.
Yeah, do you think you could build this deck as like a 5-color, just like one of those tribes, and then like activate that ability to like maybe like 4 mana draw like 1 card, like go 6 deep to draw 1 card?
Yeah, if you play like 5-color rogues or something stupid like that, like you could do that. Like,
or if you wanted to do like a mix of like 2 tribes, so you could consistently like get 2.
Yeah, well, you don't for the top 6 cards to get it to be like about like an 80% chance to hit. You probably only need about. Not exact numbers, but something around like 20-ish cards probably gives you like a 70+ chance. I think those numbers are close to right to hit one. So I mean, like 70% chance to hit with 20 of a tribe among these it's not too bad. Like you can hit pretty often, but it's expensive.
And I think you brought up the point earlier that this is another 5-color infinite mana commander.
Yeah, just like. I don't know. I could see the situation where you just flip your deck until you get your Spellseeker. Spellseeker gets your like Brain Geyser or something dumb like that. That's 2 mana, right? Yeah. There's the 2 mana one. Pull from tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And you just like draw your deck and win. This can also get the Merfolk Wizard that wins you the game if you have no library, whatever that card's called.
Oh, Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah, you can get Thassa's Oracle with this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have infinite mana. Obviously, you can't draw your deck with that, but
Yeah, so there's probably something cool to be done with Tazri, but it's kind of a mediocre 5-color
party thing. I don't know.
Party stuff.
Yeah.
All right, then we have the big crab. Cherix, the Rising Isle.
Yeah, the giant enemy crab.
The giant 0/17. It's costs 2 and 2 blue. Spells your opponents cast that target Cherix, the Rising Isle costs 2 more to cast. And for 3 mana, it gets plus X minus X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control.
So This is obviously the new commander for your for your tribal Leviathan deck, right? Duh, Leviathan sea monsters.
Are you kidding me? It's tribal crabs.
Tribal crabs, true. Well, I mean, there's like a whole ton of crazy like blue like sea monsters that everyone wants to play, but never ends up being
This
good.
is some like command zone level banter, right?
I know. Well, so I mean, is there like honestly though, like making their spells cost 2 more to cast the crab? I don't even know what that's doing on this card. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I like the meme of like, so there's all like these people playing like Boros or like mono white Voltron decks.
Yeah.
And then blue just like comes along and like just accidentally is like better at Voltron with just like they're like big crab.
You accidentally just have like 9 islands in play and you just hit them for 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, just why not? And it's not even like a 9-4. It turns into like a 9-8.
It's like the SRAM's like SRAM's got all these equipments. He's like no, you can't just have a bunch of islands in play and kill people. And then it's like crab go.
Well, something interesting, I guess. I mean, I think this card's obviously like kind of bad, right? Like it's not gonna do anything super great. But I mean, you could build a fun deck around it. And something you might not think immediately is that you can activate his ability multiple times in a turn. So if you have 6 mana and 6 islands in play, you can be like +6, -6, +6, -6, and then it's like a 12.
That's really neat.
It's like a 12-4 or something. Like if it gets unblocked. I mean, you're probably not going to do that, but like it's a thing you can do.
So this is the premium Voltron commander.
Yeah, in mono blue, and it has the most toughness of any creature ever printed. So maybe
notable.
Put it in your Fennex deck or something and mill for 17.
We have Draina, the Last Blood Chief. She's a 3 and 2 black for a 4/4 flying vampire cleric. When she attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and that creature is a vampire in addition to its other types.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about this card, Eli?
I think she's just like okay, like it's a fine card, but you kind of have to like either only put like 1 or 2 like big creatures in your graveyard at a time, or find some way to like manage like what kind of creatures you have in your graveyard, because giving your opponent the choice on that is it could be bad.
Yeah, you really want this. Is kind of reminds me of it's not even close to similar, but it reminds me of Tasigur in the way that Tasigur lets your opponent choose when you activate him, he lets them choose an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard and put it in your hand. So they use like ways you can use ways to like delve those out or whatever. But like so maybe if you can like delve away some bad creatures, maybe you can get something cool back. But overall, like it's a lot of work to do anything. You could just cast a reanimate and get the same effect.
As far as like mono black like reanimator commanders, like we've seen like a mono black chainer, like that's kind of just better than this.
Much better. Opinion,
because having to attack.
It does make them a vampire.
Yeah, it makes them a vampire. It gives them a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah,
it makes it a vampire. Yeah, that's about all to say on that one, I think. Oh, here we go. This is the crazy
It doesn't offend me, so.
We got Morag, Fury of Akomb.
Now, this guy's pretty good.
This is really good. He is 4 and red.
Yep.
For a 6/6. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. And landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control.
Mm-hmm. I just want to, like, this card is, like, templated in a way that can be kind of confusing to understand. So I just want to say, like, you don't get an additional main phase after that combat. And the combats do stack with multiple landfall triggers, so you'll get multiple combats in a row. And at the beginning of each of those combats, it will untap all of your creatures. So the way that I see this kind of being powerful, like just like kind of a base case, is like you play a land, you get an extra combat, you go to combat, you attack, then in your second main phase you play a land, get another combat, untap your creatures, they're bigger, you swing it again. The really broken part is when you're playing it in conjunction with like fetch lands where you can get multiple additional combats, or cards like Wayfarer's Bauble, or green decks where you can play ramp spells, and then just take like 4 combats in a row, each with which give your creatures more power, and then just deal like 100 damage in a turn. What do you think, Eli?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a card that like I appreciate that they worded it in a way that like you can't like necessarily like quote like break it, but it's still kind of broken because if you just trigger that 2 or 3 times in a turn, like I don't think there's many board states aside from like a lone Morag where you're not gonna kill somebody. I think this is a card like you almost like if somebody plays it out, unless like I said, if that's the only thing they have, you can't let them untap with that because you're gonna die.
Yeah, like if you untap with this and like 2 angel, like medium-sized angel, like 2/4/4 angels, and then you like play a fetch land, like and take 3 combats that turn, and they each get +1/+0, then +2/+0, then +3/+0 in each combat. Like that's I didn't do the math, but that's like that's got to be like 60 damage or 50 damage or something. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, I think this almost even like beats out aggravated assault for maybe like the best extra
slot?
combat
Yeah.
effect in Commander right now.
Yeah, note that it combines well with aggravated assault because you get even more additional combats. It stacks well with other cards that give additional combats because they have more power for each combat time they've attacked.
Yeah, and this guy like it doesn't like ask like if you cast it and then it doesn't ask anything like a mana commitment or anything to get the extra combats. You just play lands like
Yeah.
you should be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of good synergies with red creatures that get triggers off of attacks like a Tali. I know you have a couple you want to talk about, Eli?
Oh yeah, like the Inferno Titan, Sun Titan, anything like that with an attack trigger. Like,
yeah, it's really good with Neheb.
Yeah, Neheb the
Crazy.
Eternal, like you'll get 1,000,000 mana.
Yeah,
very powerful. I think that's
even the other Neheb too. The pitch your hand.
Rummager Neheb.
Yeah, pretty good to that too.
Yeah,
Yes, this card's awesome.
Very strong.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be like a great commander, but it's also like really good in 99. I would say really good 99.
Yeah, I mean,
card.
I think any Gruul deck
Yeah, pretty cool.
that wins with combat at least.
Would love that.
All right, next we have Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. Costs 3 and green. Her power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. They're still affected by summoning sickness.
So it turns all your non-token guys into forests as well. So, and it's like a big chonker, I guess. But I don't know if that really matters too much. But this is a lot of things.
Yeah, like it's a pretty like simple card, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. I think it's notable that like in a way it's protection from a lot of board wipes because like Cyclonic Rift will say non-land permanents or like any kind of like white board wipe that says destroy out like a cleansing.
Yeah, cleansing Nova? Is that no.
destroy
I know what
creatures.
you mean though. There's the non-land permanents or whatever.
Yeah, any board wipe saying destroy all non-land permanents.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
Can't hit that.
It doesn't make itself a land, right?
No, she does.
Oh, she does. So I was thinking like, oh, she would get bounced with the Psych Rift and your other things would stay, but no, it even makes itself a forest too. Well, like the obvious first thing that you would think of with this like in theme of the set is like, oh, it makes all your creatures do landfall things. But I think that's like not the most powerful thing that this card can do. The most powerful thing this card can do is like it kind of immediately goes infinite with the 3 or so creatures that tap to untap multiple lands. Like there's 2 4-drops that untap 2 lands. There's a guy that has Threshold, and if you have Threshold, he untaps 3 lands. These immediately go infinite on mana because you untap itself because those creatures are lands, and then another land, and then you make a net mana every time. And that's just a really easy like cards you could just play in your deck and then go infinite mana when you cast it.
Yeah, that's a really cool interaction. And then we also got like you got something like Sylvan Safekeeper. You can pretty much
it's like a sack outlet in green. You don't have to sack your lands. You can get rid of the bad creatures.
Be a sack outlet for your creatures.
Yeah,
give all your stuff Shroud.
Yep, you can crop rotation too.
Yeah, you can sack a creature.
And also Kyrian Ranger is like super bonkers in this deck as well because Kyrian Ranger is a 1-drop that you can return a forest you control to your hand to untap a creature, an elf. What does it say? I don't remember, but
I believe it's an elf.
Yeah, an elf. And so if you have, and you can only do it once per turn. But if you activate Kyrian Ranger and return itself to its hand because it is a forest, then you can untap an elf, make a green mana with that elf because it's also a forest, and then play the Kyrian Ranger and then repeat the process for infinite ETB triggers. Also, if you have an elf that taps for more than 1 mana, it's just infinite mana. So really powerful with that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Also, she is just huge, like every time, right?
Yeah, because it's equal. Its power toughness equal to the lands you control, and then also plus all your creatures because they're lands. So it's gonna be like a at least like an 8/8 or a 9/9 or
assuming
something.
that you don't have like mana dorks that you use to cast her, like she's at least a 5. Well, she'll be a. You'll have 5 lands to cast her. Mm-hmm. She counts as a land, so she'll be a 6/6.
Then there's a couple more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's always huge.
Oh, even one more thing. Like even like if you're not doing these broken things we're talking about, like you just play a couple creatures, play this commander. Next turn you have 10 mana. Like just because you can tap your creatures for mana now, if they're not mana dorks. Like it does a lot of things. Like your E-Witness now taps for mana.
Yeah.
Like it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty powerful card. All right. What's next?
We've got Tabarax, Hope's Demise. Costs 2 and a black. It's a legendary creature, Demon Cleric. It's a 2/2 with flying, and he has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more +1/+1 counters on it.
It's a lot of counters you need.
And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Tabarax. If that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, lose 1 life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, cleric tribal stuff. Probably like the Shadowborn Apostles type of deck.
Do you think this is the commander, or do you think this goes in the multicolored, the white-black?
Yeah, people like to do like
deck.
the Athreos thing.
Yeah, this would probably be good in Athreos deck, right?
Yeah, I mean, because you can tutor it out. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to do that because it's like a 3 mana creature, but
yeah, and you often want to like sacrifice your Shadowborn Apostles, right? And whenever you sacrifice a Shadowborn Apostle, you draw a card and lose life. Like that seems good, right?
And he'll get huge, and then ideally get lifelink at some point. So
gain back the life that you lost because you do lose life when you sacrifice the things, and then if he's like a 7/7, you gain 7 in a swing. So I don't know. This probably is a pretty okay card. It even just gets counters whenever a creature dies, but I don't think you really want to be using this if you're not really getting the cleric thing.
Yeah, solid like cleric tribal type of thing, and I like low CMC commanders, like 3 mana 2/2 flying.
Yeah, and it's also like board wipe protection because if they board wipe you and you have this and 3 clerics, like this counts itself. No, they're not token creature. Never mind. If you have 2 other clerics in this and then they all die, they get board wiped. You draw 2 cards. It's not bad.
Yeah, pretty good.
And it's a 3-drop. That's important. It's very cheap.
Pretty niche, but playable.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, moving into the multicolored commanders. We cut out a lot of these because most of them are pretty mediocre. Mm-hmm. But the main notable one we have first up is a Kiri, Fearless Voyager. She costs 1, a red and a white. She's a 3/3 core warrior. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creatures, draw a card. And you can pay a white. You may unattach an equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So we got the Boros card draw meme. Yeah,
they can't draw cards.
Yeah, so that's pretty good card draw though, right?
Yeah,
so
it seems solid. Yeah.
If you attack 3 different players, you'll draw 3 cards.
Mm-hmm. You need to have equipments attached to all those creatures that attack, but I mean that is meaningful card advantage.
Yeah. So that's really good. I think her second ability is even pretty good because you could build in a lot of ways to like manufacture a one-sided board wipe with that, mm-hmm. which is really strong. I think this is gonna be a really fun commander because like just having card draw in your command zone lets you play like a lot more like fun. Like you don't have to worry about like top decking like some jank like in Boros. Yeah. You can play more cards that don't necessarily have to like have an impact right away.
Yeah, and I think this deck probably ends up being better not as a Voltron commander, although that is the first thing you'd go to, right? But like I think because you have such good creatures like what is it, Kazul's Toll Collector that like lets you equip equipments for free and stuff, where you don't really want to like that just like that card alone makes me just want to like not kill people with commander damage because like if I can equip all my things for free and then like swing in and then like I only pay 1 mana to if I unequip them to give it indestructible, I just can put it back on. Like I think that's really powerful. Also, no, never mind. I was thinking this is very certainly a good Sunforger deck though, right? If you're gonna play a Sunforger theme.
Yeah, I think
your Sunforger toolbox.
I think this is like a pretty good like Godo Helm deck probably. Because both those cards would be playable in this on their own, mm-hmm. and so I think that's probably like the main win condition. Just like when I played like an equipment based deck, like the equipments were mostly like did some kind of utility that like would give you value like through attacking. So like you got like the swords and things like Sunforger and Argentum armor. Argentum armor is okay if you can get it out for like 2 mana with a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, or if you can equip it for free with Kazul's Toll Collector or something.
Pure Steel Paladin is going to be like the best card in this deck.
Yeah, or like Stone Hero Giant's pretty good. This seems like if you want to play Goto Helm deck, but you also wanted white for the things that white gives you instead of just a mono red deck, seems solid.
Yeah, this is like kind of the Boros equipment payoff commander I've wanted for a long time, because like the only thing you can argue really that Boros is better at than the other colors is dealing with equipments, in my opinion.
Yeah, and attacking and stuff.
This finally gives you a payoff for both of those things, because there's actually like a lot of good equipment payoffs in Boros.
Before you just kind of had mostly, you had a couple mid-power level Boros guys, but you pretty much had Aurelia if you were going to go like with like an equipment thing.
Yeah, I feel like Aurelia was probably the best before.
But now you can try this out too.
Or old Akiri and Bruce Tarl.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Forever may she rest.
We have Kaza, Royal Chaser. Costs a blue and a red. It's a 1/2 human wizard with flying and haste. And you can tap it. The next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control as this ability resolves.
Yeah, kind of weird templating they put it there. They didn't want to make it a mana ability, or not. It wouldn't be a mana ability, but they wanted to make it... that is what it would do. It just, they worded it like that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it doesn't give you mana. It just reduces the net cost.
I'm just surprised whatever, it doesn't matter. But I actually kind of like this card a lot, because I'm a really big fan of 2 mana cost commanders. I think you need to pay close attention to them, because even if they don't do exceedingly powerful things, they're very consistent, and you can build around them really easily, because you're going to be able to cast them over and over again. I kind of see this gal, I can't tell, as kind of like a blue-red Baral kind of card, where you kind of just get the additional color, and like he does the same function as Baral does, where he kind of reduces the cost of a spell. Maybe you get a couple wizards out and you can cast something like a extra turn spell or something for cheap, whatever. But I think it's pretty cool. Do you have anything interesting to say about it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's a little different than Baral, because I think Baral wants you to play a lot of like small spells, or like specifically like counter spells and stuff. Whereas this one, you get out a couple wizards and then you go like with one big spell. Like you said, extra turn spells. I think that'd be actually a great
pretty
way
good.
To go with that.
You can play them for like 3 instead of 5. Seems good, right?
Because then that'll even untap your Kaza, or you'll get the next turn to cast
untap
another
it and do it
thing.
again.
I think that'll be very cool.
Yeah, and something to mention, I guess, is that it's definitely a tribal focused card, because it cares about wizards, but it itself is a wizard, so it'll always be 1 as long as they don't kill it in response or something. But like wizards are like, it's kind of the blue privilege, but like wizards is a tribe where you don't have to put a bunch of stickers in your deck to play it. Like you just like end up playing, like a lot of like good cards end up being wizards.
Yeah.
So you just play the cards you might play in like a deck. Like you could play like a Trinket Mage, and it's like a lot better than this deck than a normal deck. You just get your your Soul Ring, and then it adds a extra mana for your spells.
You shall not want for good wizards in Commander.
Yep.
Then we have Linvala, Shield of Seagate. She costs 1, a white and a blue. It's a 3/3 Angel Wizard.
Oh, it's a wizard!
Flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, choose target non-land permanent opponent controls. Until your next turn, it can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. And you can also sacrifice Linvala to choose hexproof or indestructible. Creatures you control gain that ability until end of turn.
This card's neat. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know if you're ever going to be able to trigger that first part. I
think never, unless I think literally never.
They made her a wizard.
Then you need to have a rogue, a warrior, and a cleric.
Yeah.
What do you? There are probably some white clerics that are playable in like a kind of like an aggressive deck. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but isn't there's a couple dudes. There's like probably that one drop. Yeah, but like the thing that's interesting about this is that it's like a bigger Selfless Spirit, right?
Yeah, it's another kind of Selfless Spirit with like that extra upside of you could just give your stuff hexproof. And it's also a 3/3 flyer. So I don't know. Maybe it's probably not like a commander in a lot of decks.
Yeah.
Unless you want to make some kind of like low to the ground,
Yeah,
like
could you see
blue
that?
white, like aggressive deck maybe.
Like a Geist of Saint Traff deck, but instead of Geist, you play this or something. I don't know. But Geist is like I don't know, something like that.
I might like this a little better than Geist of Saint Traff if you were going wide instead of like big. I think usually Geist is kind of more of a Voltron type.
You could play this as like a Spirits commander, where the commander doesn't synergize with Spirits, but it gives you that board wipe protection effect.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I think you could definitely play this as a commander, but I think it probably slots well into like a deck that wants Selfless Spirit effects.
Yeah, I mean, I think like in a blue white deck or something, like if you were looking to even like recur that kind of effect, like this, like with a Sun Titan,
seems good.
Seems really good.
And it's just a bigger body than Selfless Spirit, because Selfless Spirit's a 2/1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 3/3 is big. Gets in.
And next we got Yasharn.
Yasharn. This is the pig.
And how is this at the implacable?
Implaceable? I don't know.
We're fucking idiots.
Implaceable, like you.
Implaceable, or
yeah. Implacable.
Oh my god, we're bad.
It's okay.
I should
have seen that one.
Walked right into this one. It costs 2, a green and a white. It's a 4/4 elemental boar. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic forest and a basic plains. Reveal those cards and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your library.
Chunks meow. Sorry.
Players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities.
Yeah, so this card's cool.
Yeah, it's a hate boar.
A hate boar, not a hate bear. Yeah, very cool. Well, what do they make 4/4s? 4/4s are like rhinos, right? You could call it. If they made it a rhino, it could be literally a hate rhino. Or like a beast, but I don't know. I guess beasts are every power and toughness these days. But
yeah, so like that first part is just kind of like there. Like neither of these things are really things I think you would build around as for like a commander, but that second ability can be really good. Stops fetch lands, stops like Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, I think I really like the first ability actually. Like something about that just kind of speaks to me. Just like playing a 4-mana 4/4 that draws 2 cards.
Yeah, it draws you 2 cards.
They're
like,
lands, but you do want to play lands, so
yeah, like that's just it could honestly not have that, and it would still be like fine.
You do want to play lands.
Yeah,
good observation. No, but I mean, like I don't know, like you could play this like either in a deck or like as like the commander, I guess, of like some just like kind of janky hate bears, kind of beat people up with a 4/4 deck, like, and you just draw a couple lands to hit your land drop. Seems fine.
Yeah,
I like it.
Pretty solid.
It's a boar too. Boars are cool.
Our last guy is Zareth San, the Trickster. Costs 3, a blue and a black. It's a 4/4 Merfolk Rogue with Flash. You can pay 2, a blue and a black. Return an unblocked attacking rogue you control to its owner's hand to put him from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. And when he deals combat damage to a player, you may put target permanent card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control.
What do you think of this card, Eli? It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's I don't think there's been a lot of effects that like let you reanimate like any permanent from like somebody's graveyard.
It is interesting, yeah. It can be like a ramp effect for like a land if
yeah,
you don't have
you
anything.
could you could steal their lands. So that's kind of neat.
Ideally, you want to get back like a solid permanent, like a big creature, like a Smothering Tithe or something, right?
Yeah, so I guess you'd probably like play some mill cards, but then you have to be milling people.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's got that like ninjutsu problem where it doesn't have it's a ninjutsu card kind of, but it doesn't have commander ninjutsu. So you can only like put it on the battlefield tapped and attacking if it's in your hand. So you really don't want to play it as your commander, unless like you're just going to ignore that ability, which you can do.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting card.
Oh, and it has Flash, which is pretty cool, pretty good. So
yeah,
Flash and Commanders I found to be pretty powerful, but not much else to talk about that card. I don't think it seems kind of fun, kind of okay.
So those are the legends.
Yep, that's all the legends out of the way.
That's some neat stuff.
Mm-hmm. Definitely gonna probably build an Akiri deck or something. That sounds fun.
Yeah. All right, for our white cards.
Maybe the pig. Go ahead. Sorry.
I thought you were talking about Chonk for a second.
Yeah, no, I was talking about you.
We got Angel of Destiny. She costs 3, a white and a white.
Mm-hmm.
She's an Angel Cleric, 2/6 with flying and double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. At the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game.
Man, I know you love alternate win cons, Eli, and lose the game effects. A little bit.
Yeah, this is a weird one because effectively it fogs your own combat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like swing out at somebody with a bunch of creatures in this, and you gain a bunch of life, and then your opponent removes this before the end step, you just like you fog yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get through and maybe even like with an extra combat step, hit 2 different players, you can make 2 people lose the game. So I could see it having like a high upside. I don't think it's very good in a mono white deck because you're lacking in like outside of equipments. You can't get haste, and you can't get an extra combat, and you really don't want to be like fogging your own combat in like a combat based mono white deck.
No, but something to note about it is that it does have evasion, flying of course, but it also has double strike, which means it holds a sword well. I mean, it's not dealing damage, but you can get double triggers off of swords. Like Sword Feast Spam and stuff like that, which is good. And also, it can like really make you gain that life faster. So, does well. Double Strike, of course, always good with equipment.
Yeah. I think maybe life gain decks might like it just because it will gain you a ton of life like every combat.
Yeah, also something to note is something interesting, I guess, is like you can give it's not just when it hits. So if you have like if this is like in like I have a deck that plays Ishai as the commander, and you know Ishai is like a 4-drop that like gets a counter whenever it's a 4-drop flying bird, which gets a counter whenever an opponent casts a spell, and it gets to be like kind of a big bird, and you know this kind of gives that creature lifelink, and giving like a big creature lifelink can be powerful, and even though they gain the life, if they took commander damage, like that still counts. So if you hit them twice with like a 11/11, they have the same life, but they're dead.
Right. Yeah. I think this card has some interesting applications, but I wouldn't think about putting it in like every white deck.
Yeah, but it's a cool design. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun thing to kind of like build around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Archon of Emiria. For 2 and a white, it's a 2/3 creature. It's an Archon. And it has flying.
Mm-hmm.
Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped.
So it's like Rule of Law and like half of Thalia, kind of.
Yeah.
On like a 2/3 flyer for 3. Seems solid, right?
Yeah, it's
like a hate bear.
Interesting. I'm not personally a big fan of Rule of Law effects.
Mm-hmm.
If you have ways to use like flash in your deck,
it
becomes really good.
Yeah, it seems like it would be good in like an Afara deck or like Wrath Capuchin, right? So where you really don't want to be doing things on your turn. So it's probably better in some. It's probably better in a deck where you definitely want to be playing instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, it is like kind of mostly upside, honestly.
Right.
Because it doesn't make your lands ender tapped. It's the only symmetrical part is the Rule of Law effect.
Yeah, and the non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped is that's a big effect.
That's a serious effect, yeah. That does a lot.
Yeah, so that's a pretty solid card. I wish I prefer like my hate bear effects at like 2 mana.
2 mana,
for everything that this does, I think it makes sense.
It was like a 2 mana 1/3 or something. It'd be kind of sick.
Yeah, that'd be
with flying. Oh yeah, and lifelink and first strike and haste vigilance. Okay, sorry.
This is kind of a weird one. We almost were thinking of not talking about it, but
it's interesting.
It's got some like interesting applications maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Farsight Adept for 2 and a white. It's a 3/3 core wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each draw a card.
Yeah, it's a common too.
Yeah. So I like the kind of like Wall of Omens effects for like my white decks as a form of card draw, like blinking that. And this isn't nearly as good as that. I would maybe think about playing it if it was like 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think this is a lot better at 2 mana. One thing that I think is interesting about this is like a couple sets ago they made that what was it? Happily Ever After? Is that the white? That was a different.
Yeah.
Card? They made Happily Ever After, and they were like, "This is the commander card draw for white. It makes everybody draw a card."
That was stupid.
And this is a marginal upgrade from that in in that concept. So
personally, I never want to see them go in the direction of white card draw, where they just make spells that say each player draws a card.
It's really bad.
That is terrible. That's really bad card disadvantage. This one, it's still not necessarily like card advantage, but it's way better than the other version because like people always like to. I'm not a big fan of like you can use this for like politics kind of argument, but like there's oftentimes in a game one person you can identify as not necessarily a threat at the moment.
Yeah, and you can even and there's even often like giving a card to that guy isn't going to matter that much because it's turn 3 and maybe he's going to discard down, or maybe like he's just like he's behind, he misses land drop, maybe help him out. But that's kind of politics stuff, so not really important to talk about.
If this was 2 mana, I would think of playing it in my like white based like blink decks as card draw.
Yeah,
but at 3, I think it's just kind of awkward and not really worth playing.
Yeah, no, this could be like a 2-drop, and it was like a beater, like a 3/3 for 2 or something. Did that, I'd be kind of down to rumble with it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, our next white card.
Yep.
Is Felidar Retreat. It's 3 and a white for an enchantment. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end turn. So what do you think, Spencer?
Well, I think that this is kind of one of the more interesting kind of Glorious Anthem kind of effects that they made because, it kind of reminds me of the new Gideon that makes a 2/2 for 0, right? The 4-mana Gideon.
Oh, Ally of Zendikar?
Yeah, it reminds me of that because this is also a 4-drop that makes 2/2s and has an effect that can pump your team for like forever until they die or whatever. But I think this is really good because it fits that spot for the token creator and the token payoff. It does both in one card, which I think is pretty versatile.
That's
and
really
good.
nice.
Yeah,
that's what I like to see in an Anthem is have it do more than just like give your creatures +1/+1. Because if you don't have any creatures, then you don't have an Anthem really. That card doesn't do anything.
Yep.
This one you're always going to have a way to get creatures on board, even if you're not like ready for the Anthem yet.
Yep.
The only downside is you just have to hit your land drops.
Yeah, and of course it also gets better with like fetch lands. It can be pretty good to just like make 2 2/2s, and then next turn you play another fetch land, make one more 2/2 and put a counter on them all, and you got like 9 power. It's not bad.
Yeah, I think I'd play this in a token deck.
Yeah, or like like some like white like terrain generator kind of thing.
Yeah,
you could play that. Yeah, this card overall I think is pretty cool.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
All right, up next we have Luminarch Aspirant. Costs 1 and a white. It's a 1/1 human cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Yeah, this is going to be the cleric in your Linvala deck, so you can get the party dream.
Yeah, what do you think about this one?
I think like it's pretty cool because like it's baseline. It's a 2-mana 2/2, which isn't great, but like that's just like the baseline. Every turn after it grows something else in your turn, and that's not even counting like counter synergy. So it seems like a pretty aggressively costed like not value engine, but like a kind of a, I guess it is kind of value,
it's kind
right?
of like a slow acting Anthem, and I like that because it at the very least it's a creature, and creatures are always going to attack and block for you.
Yep.
But you're just going to have to, like, if you only ever have a couple of creatures out on board, like I have my Tajik Legion's Edge deck, and so I play that on 2, turn 3, or turn 2, it'll make itself a 2/2, turn 3, play Tajik.
Give it a counter.
Give Tajik a counter. Yeah. He'll give the Luminarch Aspirant a counter. I'm attacking for what?
7, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
7 there.
Yeah.
So that's just going to stack up every turn.
Yeah, and this is the kind of card that you really want to be playing on 2, because when you play this on like turn 7, like it's not going to... There's less turns that it's going to likely to stick around. When you play it on turn 2, it's probably going to stick around for at least like three turns or something, right? So
yeah, but I even like that like late in the game.
It still does something.
Top deck that you could just put a counter on like your most evasive creature and still get an extra damage.
It does something the turn it comes out and every turn afterwards, which is always what you want to see in a commander card. You don't want to,
I'd rather like see this kind of effect that like triggers on combat than like attack triggers in white cards, because attack triggers are just like a lot harder to get than you think.
Yeah, this is the kind of like, definitely like late game, you just like play it and like put a counter on like your Hushbringer or something dumb like that, and you're like, okay, well now I can attack you for 3 in the air. It's chip damage, but like that's a lot of white decks are winning through combat, so
Yeah,
makes sense.
Up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, our next card. Ooh,
our last white
yeah.
card. I think probably the best one.
I think so too.
Skyclave Apparition. It costs 1 and 2 white. It's a 2/2 core spirit. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with a converted mana cost 4 or less.
Mm-hmm.
And when Skyclave Apparition leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card.
This card is just like kind of nuts, right? Like kind of like an auto-include in most white decks.
Yeah, I think if even if you don't blink this, like just getting one thing right, like exiling somebody's Soul Ring or like a Mana Crypt or something.
You can just exile their Llanowar Elves, like it's fine.
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted a white Reclamation Sage.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, this has the mana limitation, but it can also hit any non-land, non-token permanent.
Yeah, it comes out early and it's good. It comes out late and it's good. You know, it hits the problematic things early that like you have to deal with now, like Smothering Tithe or Six Study. Like those are really important to like, you know, get under control before they go out of control. So, yeah, and I think and something to note is like how much does the XX illusion matter when it leaves? And Eli, it doesn't matter, right? Like at all. Like it doesn't do anything.
No, I mean like. I'm of the opinion that, like, sometimes, like, you have to...
They can block, but, like...
If somebody uses those kind of cards on you that, like, leaves you with a token, you have to make it matter by, like, turning that token on them if you can. But, like, there's such an abundance of, like, bounce effects in Commander.
Yeah.
That, like, oftentimes a token is just, like, born to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the best part about this card is definitely the versatility. It gets creatures, enchantments... artifacts, planeswalkers. You can hit planeswalkers. Like, off in white, what's your answer to planeswalkers? Generous Gift? That's it, right?
Yeah, or, like, destroy all non-land.
Yeah, but, effects. Yes. But, like, I mean, if someone's got, like, a planeswalker they got out early, and they're, like, threatening to ult in, like, 2 turns, like, here you go, have an illusion.
I feel like most good planeswalkers are about 4 mana, so I think hitting stuff up to 4 is huge.
Yeah, the new Teferi, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
So that's a really cool card.
Yeah, and you don't even, it's just good.
Right, moving on to blue cards.
What's the first blue card?
We got Confounding Conundrum.
Hell yeah.
It's a 1 and a blue. It's an enchantment. When Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand.
Yeah. This card's art looks like one of the puzzle knots from Kaladesh. But
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, or a big pretzel. I don't know.
But, or a big pretzel. Yeah.
So what do you think?
So I think it's kind of an interesting, like anti-ramp card. You know, it's like fetch lands can like still kind of get around it because you can just like crack it on an opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll stop like a big ramp spell for the most part.
Yeah, and the really important thing on it is that the downside for playing it is not even that bad because you get to draw a card when you play it. Like it cantrips, it's 2 mana, pretty cheap, and it stops like the green menace.
yeah, it kind of slows down green decks a little bit. I personally wish we'd see more cards like this in like white,
probably
red even.
Yeah, I don't know why it's blue. I guess
yeah, it's kind of like weird. Blue gets like these weird like kind of like not really like stacks, but like those kind of like weird taxing.
Yeah, I guess
sometimes.
like your lands don't get to be untapped, or you don't get more of them. But I don't know. It seems like a fair card. You'd probably be better in like a. You could play it especially better, of course, in Enchantress decks because it's an enchantment that draws a card. Those cards are usually really good. So
yeah, not super abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And next we got Inscription of Insight. Costs 3 and a blue. It's a sorcery. Has a kicker cost of 2 and 2 blue.
It's 8 mana total.
8 mana if it's kicked. It says choose one. If the spell was kicked, choose any number instead.
Mm-hmm.
Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. Or scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Or target player creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the number of cards in their hand.
It's the same token made by the Skyclave guy or whatever.
Yeah, you ever wonder like why the apparition's like, why does this make a blue illusion? It's like that's why, because they didn't want to print more tokens.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I don't know. This card, It's kind of bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't pay 4 mana for like any one of those effects.
Yep.
And paying 8 even to get all 3 of those.
It's also not good.
Yeah.
8 mana is a lot of mana. You can be doing like there's the other modal counter spells like Mystic Confluence that bounces things and draws cards for 5 mana. Where this does it for 4 to do a really bad version of that, or 8 to do kind of the same thing.
Yeah, for 8 mana, like you better be making a big play.
Yeah, no. For 8 mana, like this card, you have to care about the XX. That's like pretty much even 8 mana or 4 mana. I think you have to care about the XX to play this card.
Yeah, effectively, like this gives you like 3.5 cards worth of advantage because like you scry 2, then draw 2 cards. That's kind of like almost like draw 3 cards, and you make a big token.
Yeah, and like you don't just play like cards in your deck that. You don't play Divination in your blue deck, so why would you play 4 mana Divination in your blue deck? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and bounce 2 target creatures. I don't understand that.
There's that. Yeah,
you don't want that to be a sorcery if you're going to play.
Yeah,
that
definitely an
stuff.
instant.
Yeah.
So this card's not very impressed, but I mean, it's a cube. It's a cube.
Yeah,
I like my cube tribal.
Yeah, this is a little bit better. Jace Mirror Mage,
better kicker card for sure.
1 and 2 blue. It's a Planeswalker. It's 4 starting loyalty, and he has a kicker cost of 2. And when he enters the battlefield, if he was kicked, you create a token that's a copy of Jace Mirror Mage, except it's not legendary, and its starting loyalty is 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 2 activated abilities. +1, you can scry 2, or for 0, you can draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost from Jace Mirror Mage.
It's interesting, right? Like, we've never seen a Planeswalker with kicker before. That's definitely different.
Yeah, I like that. So you could kick him for 5 mana. You get the 2 Jaces.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the first Jace to like scry 1, make sure that card is like 1 or like a land or something.
Yep.
If you need to draw a land, and then use the 0 of the other Jace and not have it lose loyalty, and just like kind of scry 1, draw a card every turn.
Yeah. Also, if you kick it, like you get the 1 loyalty you get the 1 loyalty Jace, and if you use the 0 on that 1 loyalty Jace token, and you hit like a big thing, like you hit like a 5-drop, well, it has 1 loyalty. You're gonna lose it anyway off of like any non-land spell.
Yeah.
So definitely really cool. You definitely wanna if you have both of them and you're gonna do one, you're gonna +1 on one of them and 0 on the other one. You have like choices for how you want to do it, because you might want to keep the other Jace around or not. I don't know. It's weird, but it also just comes down on 3, and Planeswalkers that come down on 3 tend to be kind of powerful.
Yeah, I like that. Even if you can just like scry 1 once and then maybe like draw 2 cards off of it.
Yeah, and
that's pretty okay for 3.
It scries 2, so you can set up a land 2 down, so that next turn when you 0 it, you just draw the land and doesn't lose any counters. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Also, you can populate the Jace token and make more Jaces.
Yeah, I think it's a decent little like built like
it's not like broken
all-in-one card advantage engine.
It's just kind of cute. If you care about like the cats. Sorry, if you care about like I don't know, like counters on things, or it doesn't have an alt, so it's not going to go crazy, but like it sits and does stuff.
Yeah, pretty okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's next?
Oh, Maddening Cacophony. Costs 1 and a blue. It's a sorcery. Has a kicker cost of 3 and a blue. It says each opponent mills 8 cards. If the spell was kicked, instead each opponent mills half their library, rounded up. So even for just like 1 and a blue, like each opponent mills 8, like that's a really efficient mill card.
That's better. Like what's the Minds? No, not Mind Sculpt. There's like a 2 mana, they mill like 7, right? Isn't that a thing?
Mind Sculpt.
Sculpt, yeah. So it's like it's like 1 more than Mind Sculpt, and it's each opponent. So if you're doing a mill thing, like it's obviously like a really efficient mill card, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think personally like mill is great in Commander, because like there's so like I love getting milled, because cards in my graveyard are better than cards in my deck, in my opinion.
Milling opponents is scary.
Now it's when people play like Rest in Peace and then start milling people, like that's not cool. You know, doing that.
I don't like that. Come on,
those are they're gone forever now.
Yeah,
but there was recently that Jumpstart commander, Bruvac, the Grandiloquent. It's the 3-mana commander that doubles your mill.
Yeah, this is just a win with that, right?
So if you have him out and you kick this, and since it's rounded up, you just mill everybody's deck.
Yeah.
And I know people always say like the Eldrazi Titan thing, but like most decks actually don't run those.
Yeah.
So you're oftentimes going to be able to mill everybody out.
And even if they do run those, you can play a couple like instant speed target player draws effects so that you can kill them in response. Because it is all one mill effect. It's not instant, individual mills. They're milling their entire deck, and then the Eldrazi Titan trigger goes in the stack, and then you can make them draw a card and they lose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also a thing to be afraid of. So don't mill Spencer Cook's library, because then he'll untap and cast Twilight's Call on his upkeep
and win. And,
return his entire library's worth of creatures to play.
Then
win on the upkeep.
Yeah, and then kill you with like a Cavalier of Flame.
So yeah, it's probably I'd say the most efficient mill effect in a long time.
It's very good, but mill isn't good. But if you combine them together, you could do it, and it could be a solid.
Then we have along the same lines Ruin Crab, costs a blue. It's a 0/3 creature crab, landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards.
So it's like a multiplayer version of the other crab.
Yeah, it's a Hedron crab. For multiplayer. I think this is how they ought to design cards for Commander, instead of just like trying to like make it like busted for a multiplayer format. Like just take a good card and just scale it with multiplayer, and that's fine.
Does the snow one from Modern Horizons hit each opponent? I think so. I think it does. So yeah, that one only does two cards, but yeah, Ruined Crab. Nothing much to say about it. It's a better Hedron Crab, right? Or is Hedron Crab 4 cards though? Is it 3?
I think it's just 3.
3. Yeah, this is just a better Hedron Crab then. Very cool.
Yeah.
And Crab Tribals, goes in the Crab Tribal deck.
I wonder
that we were talking about earlier.
Who like decided that was like, you know what crabs do?
They mill.
They mill people.
And they have big toughness. That makes sense, but
this one's really cool. Yes. Seagate Stormcaller. For 1 and a blue, it's a 2/1 human wizard with a kicker of 4 and a blue. When Seagate Stormcaller enters the battlefield, copy the next instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less you cast this turn when you cast it. If Seagate Stormcaller was kicked, copy that spell twice instead. You may choose new targets for the copies.
So what's the baseline for this card?
I think the baseline is you just play like a good 1 mana spell like Swords or like Nature's Claim or something, and you play this ahead of it and you copy that spell, and it's kind of like really solid. Like
just playing like 2 of that spell, but this card can be like any spell that you need it to be at the time, and it's a 2/1 body. That seems pretty good. I mean, like talking about even just like blue instance, like you could Rapid Hybridization 2 cards, Pongify, stuff like that. They exile it and they manifest. Like that just seems good. One thing that I think is really cool about this card is that it's like the kicker effect is like all gravy, and you're probably not going to do it very much because you need to kick it for 7 total mana and then play a small spell afterwards for only 1 more copy. But it's there. Like you can do it. Like and it will be good if you need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a wizard, so like you could pair it with like stuff like Naban Demon that like doubles your wizard ETBs, so you could copy a thing.
Oh, that is very cool.
Twice, and like put High Tide on here.
Yeah, High Tide would be good.
Crazy, like copy a High Tide with this.
Especially if you're casting this with mana rocks instead of your lands, so you can keep your islands up for the High Tide.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a Snapcaster Mage, except instead of being able to Snapcaster a thing later, this kind of does it before, but you don't have to cast the spell twice. With Snapcaster Mage, you have to pay 1 for the Lightning Bolt, 2 for the Mage, and then 1 again for the Lightning Bolt. With this one, you just have to pay 2 for the creature, and then 1 for the Lightning Bolt, and you get them both without paying the extra mana. So
yeah,
it's not better than Snapcaster Mage. This is probably worse than Snapcaster Mage.
This is more like a tap out Snapcaster Mage, but it's got that upside of the kicker like late in the game when you've just got way too much mana.
And the card does get a lot better. I mean, I don't think you should this isn't like important for it, but like if you have like Leyline of Anticipation type effects where you give your things flash, this gets flash and it becomes pretty good with that too. So yeah, I like the card. It's good. Very good. Cool. Going to be expensive though.
All right, then again, best for last. Thieving Skydiver.
Oh, yeah.
Costs 1 and a blue. It's a 2/1 Merfolk Rogue with kicker of X, but X can't be 0. As flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving Skydiver.
This card's sweet.
Yeah, so there's one artifact that people play like a lot in Commander.
Wait, people play artifacts in Commander? Like what? What do you think?
There's one that somebody always has on turn 1.
Yeah.
You know.
You always yeah. Little ring there. But this is definitely like a Soul Ring stealer. Like for 3 mana, you get a 2/1, you take someone's Soul Ring. Like that's really good. Like you play Trinket Mage to get Soul Ring. Well, you don't always, but you can.
Well, I think this is even like, I mean, it requires somebody else to have it out, but like
it gets rid of one, and then
stealing somebody else's Soul Ring is better than you getting your own Soul Ring, because you're hurting somebody and helping yourself at the same time. Or you just like steal their best equipment and it attaches for free to this.
Yeah.
So I think this is gonna go in a lot of blue decks.
Yeah, and just to note, X can't be 0, but you can pay 1 for X, and then you can still steal 0 cost cards like Mana Crypt
you can
or something.
Still get their Mana Crypt.
Yep. So
I like that that kicker like stops it from being like super abusable with like blink spells.
Yeah.
But you can also like use it to steal something really big later in the game.
Like if you're gonna take someone's Guild Lotus, you got to pay 7, which makes sense. You shouldn't be able to just take the Guild Lotus for 3 mana on your guy. But
I want to play this in my Thada Del deck and like spend like 10 mana to steal like a Blightsteel Colossus or something, or 11, I guess.
Yeah. You can take it back when they homeward path it. Very cool. All right. Well, now we're on black, right?
Yep. Black cards.
What's the first black card?
So we got Demon's Disciple. So 2 and a black. It's a human cleric. It's a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker.
Well, this is like the 4th version of this card that they've made now, right?
Yeah, this is in the Fleshbag family.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
Flashback do be good.
It's no Plague Crafter. I think that's like probably going to be the best one for a while. But do you think it's better or worse than Fleshbag because it gives them the option of
sacking a planeswalker? I think the cases where they're going to sacrifice a planeswalker when they have like a better creature they want to keep is going to be very, very like uncommon. And more common than that will be they have no creatures and a planeswalker out, and they have to sack their planeswalker they otherwise wouldn't have. So I think it's better than Fleshbag.
Yeah, I see that as an upside too.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think people are going to play that one.
There is a thing to mention that like at some point when you put these cards in your decks, you have too many of them. I don't know what that point is. Maybe you just play the best 3 of them and you leave out Fleshbag or Merciless.
Yeah, it's almost getting to the point where like you could like not play Fleshbag or Merciless because you got this and
Playcrafter now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good card. I like it a lot.
And we got Feed the Swarm. It's 1 and a black. Sorcery.
Oh yeah, this one.
Destroy target creature or enchantment.
Oh my god.
You lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. So yeah, it's a black card that destroys enchantments.
They've tried to do this a couple times. This one I think is one of the better versions of that. Like Farika's whatever, not good.
Yeah, they did it in the form of like edicts before, where like people would sack an enchantment.
Yeah.
But this is a
card
better than those, but like personally, I've never like felt the biggest need to like be able to destroy enchantments in a black deck. I guess it's gonna be nice to like destroy stuff like Rest in Peace every once in a while.
Yeah, it's always the joke of, oh, I can't kill that. Haha, you guys that are playing green, you gotta kill that for me because I'm playing black and I can't do anything about it. Haha.
Yeah, I mean, my solution lately has just been like Meteor Golem though. Like people like to say that like that's inefficient, but like black's the reanimator color, so you just you bin Meteor Golem, bring it back for like 1 or 2 mana.
Yeah, I think this card would be a lot better if it was an instant. If it was an instant, this card would be kind of really good, I think.
Yeah.
But sorcery removal like is kind of not where you want to be. That being said, I do think this card does have a place, especially in mono black or black red decks, where you think you want to have like a way to kill an enchantment, and it also just like kind of doubles as a creature removal when they don't have enchantments.
Yeah, that is nice. I think it's kind of like a meta call because like that life loss part too. Like, what's the average
enchantment
CMC of like an enchantment you want to destroy? Like
4,
5?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe like a doubling season or something. Yeah, 5.
Yeah, like Smothering Tithe or like mana doublers.
Rhystic Study.
Like that's not great if you're losing like 5 life.
Sunbird's Invocation, Omniscience.
Yeah. Enchantments you want to destroy, unless they're Rhystic Study, are usually
4-ish,
big.
But I mean, like, this card, like, definitely is okay, and the base case is not that bad. The base case is like the worst case, I suppose I should say, is you're paying 2 mana, killing a creature, losing like 4 life. Like it does things in your deck. Like it's not just gonna like sit in your hand do nothing unless you're at 4 life.
Yeah, I'm personally not gonna play it just because I'm of the opinion like I'd rather like lean into what my colors are really good at and just like focus on that rather than like trying to be like a jack of all trades and play stuff like this where you're not like it's nothing really impressive.
But it is a new effect that Black didn't really get much access to, so you can try this out and maybe we'll see if it's something Black really needs or not.
They can make an instant speed one next time.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's get a Nature's Claim in Black. That'd be good.
Nature's Claim, but yeah, you lose the life. Or
something? Yeah, you lose 4. That'd be awesome.
All right, then we've got.
Well, we've got Inscription of Ruin now, right?
Yeah, Inscription of Ruin.
Yes.
This is 2 and a black sorcery. It's a kicker of 2 and black. Choose one. If the spell was kicked, choose any number instead. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less.
Yeah, that's another card in that cycle, but this one is not a cube, so it is.
Yeah,
I kind of don't like it as much.
This one though, again, I don't think you'd play 2 and a black to do any one of those effects.
I do think this is better than the blue one though. Actually, like all jokes aside,
I agree.
The blue one's so much mana. This one you can just cast for 3.
Yeah.
But it's not great, right?
Again, it's either Mind Rot, destroy a small creature, or reanimate a small creature.
Yeah.
Even if you get all 3 for 7 mana, do all 3 of those.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's there's probably not much to talk about with this. I guess the best mode, like the most unique mode, is the reanimate the creature mode, in which case it's kind of worse than a regular reanimate spell. But if you're reanimating like a really good creature that's like core to your game plan, like a Zulaport Cutthroat or like a Dark Confidant, I mean, it's not that good to your game plan, but it's like a card advantage engine. But like it could be okay. But I think you just find better cards than this to play.
Yeah, like usually with like this kind of like the 2 modes that are like targeted, usually if you pay like that much mana in like a modal spell like this and like shoot like all the modes at one player, like it usually blows them out. But even if you like do that, like both of them to one person, like they're like, oh no, I discard 2 cards and you destroyed my Eternal Witness.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then you get back probably nothing because
and I get back my
Gravecrawler,
my Gravecrawler
that you couldn't cast.
Like the best case scenario. I don't.
It's not great.
I don't think there's a best case.
7 mana is a lot of mana. You can just like 1 more mana and you can like draw a million cards and kill all the creatures. So
yeah,
I don't know.
This one's kind of cool though. 1 and a black, Lithoform Blight. It's an enchantment aura. Enchant land. When Lithoform Blight enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted land loses all land types and abilities and has tap to add a colorless, and tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color.
Mm-hmm. So it turns a land into a waste, right?
Yeah, or they can
lose life not a waste. It turns into like a waste slash.
Turns into a pain land.
Yeah, a pain land for any color, I suppose. Yeah, that seems powerful, right?
Yeah, I like that. It takes all the abilities off of it, so you can shut off like somebody's Field of the Dead or like a guy's Cradle. Man, they're
really printing in this set. I think there's 3 2-mana enchantments that draw a card when they enter the battlefield and have an effect.
Yeah, I mean, I like that kind of
the design.
It's not like hard removal for that land because like they still get the mana out of it, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it cantrips is kind of nice. So I think if you're having troubles like with like crazy lands,
yeah, or if your opponents are playing bounce lands, you just can make them cry and make them play better lands in their deck by playing this card.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, warp your meta by punishing them. No, so the next card, what is it?
Did you want to mention Nighthawk
we can
Scavenger?
We can talk about Nighthawk Scavenger. It's not like I don't think it's really worth talking about that much because I don't think it's going to be very good in Commander. It's pretty much a Vampire Nighthawk mixed with Tarmogoyf. Mm-hmm. So it's 3 mana for a 1+ star 3 Vampire Rogue with Flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink, and its power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among all cards in your opponent's graveyards. So just think about it like this: if you're ever in the market to play a Vampire Nighthawk, this is better. Play this.
Yeah. It's
at least going to be a 2/3. It's probably more likely going to be like a 4/3 with Flying and Lifelink. This is actually probably a good card in like an Edgar Markov deck. Right? That's the Eminence one? No, the Eminence one. Where it's like a pretty aggressive vampire. Other than that, I don't think you're really in the in the market for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pretty decent beater.
Yep.
And we have Scourge of the Skyclaves.
This is another card that I think you might only play in specific decks.
Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah.
Costs 1 and a black. It's a demon. It's a kicker of 4 and a black. When you cast the spell, if it was kicked, each player loses half their life rounded up. And Scourge of the Skyclaves' power and toughness are equal to 20 minus the highest life total among players. So in Commander, this is usually just going to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe every once in a while you can pay 7 mana to have each player lose half their life, and then it'll still probably die right away.
If someone's at 40, it will die. And then, oh my god. This never is a creature.
So that's not the cool thing about it. Spencer, you understand the Nethroi thing.
Okay, yeah. So this has an interesting interaction with Nethroi, whatever he is. He's the mutate commander, Abzan mutate commander from Ikoria, thank you. And what he says is when he mutates onto a creature, you get to return any number of target creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield where their total power is 10. So this is really interesting because it's a star, which is a characteristic defining ability, which means it has that power and toughness everywhere, in your hand, in your deck, on the field, in the graveyard, all the places. So when you're activating your Nethroi trigger, and you get to choose cards that equal total power 10, this card in your graveyard has power negative 20 if someone's at 40 life. So when you're bringing back all your creatures, you get to bring back Scourge of Skyclaves, and that says, oh, I'm at negative 20 right now. So then you get to bring back 30 total power of creatures. So instead of getting 10 power, you get 30 power now because Scourge is, you just have to subtract 20 from it. So kind of interesting, really weird, very unintuitive, but I think Nethroi is the only card where that really matters for. There might be a couple others, but like
it's a super weird interaction. I didn't even think it was. I thought that was not real when I first heard.
Yeah, and it's because it says total power 10. So you add all the powers together, and because there's a negative power, it adds to that. You wouldn't think that would work that way in Magic, but like it does. So very interesting.
Very weird.
Just like a Nethroi combo thing. So, very cool, though.
Our last black card is Soul Shatter.
Nice.
2 and a black. It's an instant. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest converted mana cost among creatures and planeswalkers they control.
This art is really sweet, actually.
Yeah. So it's a good edict. People don't play a lot of edicts, though.
No, it's just bonus hunger, right?
For
instant speed edicts?
Yeah, that's a good one. But this one, it's interesting. Like, they can't, throw a token under it. Like, if they have,
Yeah.
Like, the problem with edicts is if they have, 2 creatures and one of them's, kind of bad, they can just sack the shitty creature. But so it's pretty okay.
I mean, 3 mana to kill all of your opponent's best creatures. The card that I would relate this to is Crackling Doom, right? Crackling Doom. And in my experience, Crackling Doom is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best cards to get with Sunforger in a lot of situations. And this is only black, so it's much easier to cast. So
yeah, it also hits planeswalkers.
Yeah. Highest CMC, not highest power, so you might hit better things.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot.
It's pretty neat.
I didn't even think of Crackling Doom until just now, but yeah. Very relatable.
Yeah. Then we got on the red cards. We'll start with Cinderclasm. 1 in a red. It's an instant. Has a kicker cost of a red. And it deals 1 damage to each creature, but if it was kicked, it deals 2 damage to each creature instead. So this is kind of a niche card.
Yeah, there's not too much to talk about it, but it is like another variant of that instant speed pyroclasm effect, which is kind of versatile. So that's what makes it interesting. We had the Flame Sweep from the previous set.
Set.
Yeah, and that was 3 mana to deal 2 damage each creature, except for I think your creatures with flying or something like that. And this is like that, but with also the mode of 2 mana, instant speed, deal 1 to each creature, which could be pretty good against a Goblin deck or something like that.
Yeah, Goblin deck, Elf decks, Genocide the Elves.
Genocide the Elves, yeah. That's what this does. But sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you're in the market, especially in a more of a competitive meta game, you kind of want to make a meta call and kill the Mana Darks of the world and the Tymnas and stuff. So I think this is not very good in a lower power level game, but in a higher power level game, there's consideration for this card.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, then we have Cleansing Wildfire. For 1 and a red, it's a sorcery. Destroy target land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle their library. Then you draw a card.
Yeah, this is another one of those. I mean, it's not an enchantment, but another cantripping 2-drop. So.
Yeah, good non-basic land hate.
Yeah, I think this has like probably some wings in like Modern against like Tron and stuff, but like in Commander, this is kind of a weird card, right?
Yeah, I mean I don't know if I'd play in a lot of things, but there's also like some other like weird applications you could use it for. Like you could use it on yourself to like trigger landfall, or
true. You could.
If somebody's like holding up like 2 mana and you think it's for a counterspell or something, like you could like shoot one of their lands first with this
in like main phase 1.
Yeah, because the land they get to replace it is tapped,
yeah.
So you could take out like one of their
blue sources.
Yeah, you could make them.
And then go to main phase 2. They can't float the mana.
Yeah. Yeah,
you can do stupid like stranglehold things and make it so they can't search for
basics. Stranglehold, Haven Mind Sensor.
Yeah, but it's just really nice because the cost of playing it is that you spent 2 mana to cantrip, which is pretty okay.
Yeah, like your opponent doesn't necessarily like go down a card for it, but like neither do you. Like you can just like kind of throw them off tempo a little bit.
You can just cycle it on turn 2 most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost always going to be a good land.
Oh, you don't even have to hit non-basics. You can hit a basic and make you get another one.
Yeah,
very cool.
Land. Very interesting.
Yeah.
We have Leyline Tyrant.
This card's.
It's 2 and 2 red. It's a 4/4 dragon with flying. It says you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end, and when it dies, you can pay any amount of red mana. When you do, it deals that much damage to any target.
So this is like a red Omnath kind of, right? The original mono green Omnath, not the new ones.
Yeah, it lets you bank all your extra mana every turn.
It's hard to kind of evaluate, I think.
Yeah, because I know that mono green Omnath is pretty strong because you can do like the thing of like play it on one turn and the next turn don't play anything, just float out all your mana, keep that mana until your next turn, and the turn after that you have just an insane amount of mana. You have like 2 turns worth of mana.
Yeah.
And if you remove this one, if it dies, you can just dump all that mana that you had floating and dome somebody for like 10.
And it does kind of disincentivize people to remove it, although it needs to be removed probably, but it does disincentivize it because like, if you remove it, I'm going to shoot your commander or something, like. Yeah. And also, I mean, the base of this is that it's like a 4 mana 4/4 with flying, which is a card, that's a card that gets in, it's a thing. So I don't think it's probably not going to go crazy with the mana production unless you play it with like a Neheb type effect or something.
Yeah, I feel like the last couple of years there's been kind of like a big red like archetype building in Commander, like with like Neheb the Eternal or like a Tali and stuff like that. Yeah. You just play like big red things and use stuff like Mana Geyser or Neheb.
Oh yeah, Mana Geyser, this seems pretty good.
Or you can even use like that old like weird enchantment Braid of Fire,
yeah.
And bank the mana that you lose on your upkeep.
In Mystery Boosters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of cool. Braid of Fire. I remember you could like what was like a Braid of Fire like that stupid little commander guy that like made your 2-drops unblockable.
Oh, yeah, Subira.
Yeah, and you like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Subira kind of wants Braid of Fire a little bit because you can use it in. Putting together the Braid of Fire deck. No one ever thought this would happen.
Yeah, so probably see play in a lot of red decks.
Yeah.
Then we've got Magmatic Channeler for 1 and a red. It's a 1/3 human wizard. As long as there are 4 or more instant and/or sorcery cards in your graveyard, Magmatic Channeler gets +3/+1. You can tap it, discard a card, and exile the top 2 cards of your library. Then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. So I've wanted a 2-mana Rummager in red for a long time since like blue gets like a 2-mana Looter.
Yeah, they do.
And this is like, I feel like this is the closest we've come so far. I mean, you had Dismissive Pyromancer a couple core sets back, but you had to pay a red to do that, and he had the other ability too, but this one, I don't know if its first ability is kind of incidental, because +3, like just having a 4/4, probably not that great.
No.
But I like I'm not a big hater of impulsive draw, and I like that it goes 2 cards deep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think, Spencer?
Yeah, I'm kind of not that high up on this card. I feel like it's interesting, and like there's some like interesting niches for it. Like for example, it is a wizard. It fits. I could put in your wizard deck, but a lot of the time, when you're discarding cards of this, you're going to want to be discarding a land card, and then if you're discarding a land card and X on the top 2 cards, and you hit like a land and a non-land card that you might not be able to cast this turn because it's too expensive or because it doesn't fit your curve, then you're kind of just like discarding a land to exile a land, then play a land. Like it's like that doesn't sound amazing. It would if it was just rummage, like discard a card, draw a card. It would be amazing. It'd be awesome. It'd be so good.
Yeah,
but I mean, this card is a lot better in decks where you kind of run out of steam, I think, in the late game, because it does dig 2 deep, which means you can, when you have a lot of mana but not many cards, you can kind of dig for that more impactful spell, which I think is good.
Yeah, I love that it goes 2 deep. If it was just discard a card, exile the top card, you can play it until end of turn, I think this wouldn't be really worth talking about.
I mean, and a 1/3 like is all right. Like usually when we see these, they're like 2/1s or something, or like a 1/1. So a 1/3 that, you know, if it's in like a red deck or like a red-white deck, like it can get counters on it incidentally from things, and then once it eventually does get, you know, the 4 or more instants or sorcery's clause, like it can become like a 5/5 if it has a counter on it, which is kind of big. So it's a card.
Yeah, I'm interested to
see how it goes. Yeah, for sure.
All right, now we got Nahiri's Lithoforming for X and red. It's a sorcery. Sacrifice X lands. For each land sacrificed this way, draw a card. You may play X additional lands this turn. Lands you control enter the battlefield tapped this turn.
This card's weird.
Yeah, this is like it's an interesting effect for a red card.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know like what X has to be before like this card is really that great.
You have to spend a lot of mana to be able. But the problem is like that the amount of lands you want to sack to do the thing, like you have to pay a mana for each one. So like if you want to like sack 5 lands and like draw 5 cards and you can play your lands back, you know, tapped, so it doesn't even make mana. You have to pay 7 mana for that. That's a lot. Yeah. I mean, I guess the only time this card I think really does anything good is either you're playing some sort of Amulet of Vigor thing where you untap your lands, or if you really care about landfall, right? That's got to be it. Yeah,
I think, again, this is like kind of like that sort of big red card where if you just have like a ton of mana to dump into something, mm-hmm. or in like some kind of like Lord Windgrace deck where you care about the land
in the graveyard. You care about them being in the graveyard.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's neat, but
so expensive.
A lot of mana.
Yeah. I guess if you have like 20 lands in play, like you could do it for like 10 and then have 10 more. I don't know. Get 10 land, and then you get like 10 landfall triggers. Although then you kind of have no lands in your deck left. But
yeah, it's weird. All right, we got Roiling Vortex for 1 and a red. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. And for a red, your opponents can't gain life this turn.
Yeah, this card's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think I like this card for like aggressive decks. I mean, a 1 damage every turn, that's not a lot, but like that'll add up, and people be playing a lot of free spells in Commander.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, Maelstrom Wanderer, Mana Crypts, you know, stuff like that.
If somebody force of wills me, I want them to take 5 damage.
You want them to get smashed with a big lava dart? Yeah. I don't know, but I don't know. And I guess the incidentally being able to stop life gain can stop like a Grey Merchant or something. But
yeah, that can be big sometimes because people will often rely on that one big like instance of life gain.
Yeah, they don't really gain life over time. It's usually one big piece if they're going to gain life, like an Exsanguinate or something. Yeah, but other than that,
so I think this might have a home in just like kind of aggressive decks.
Not too much else to talk about this card, I think.
Yeah.
Is that the last, the red cards, or is there another one?
I think we just got...
we got Valakut
Exploration.
Yeah.
For 2 and a red, it's an enchantment. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. At the beginning of your end step, if there are cards exiled with Valakut Exploration, put them into their owner's graveyard. then Valakut Exploration deals that much damage to each opponent. And to clarify, it means the amount of damage is equal to the amount of cards that you put into your graveyard.
Yep, not the CMC, which I originally thought.
It's not very clear on that. But I think this, as far as like impulse draw effects go, this is actually really neat. Like, you do need to hit your lands, but you could trigger it 2 or 3 times in a turn.
Yeah, definitely.
And the fact that it puts them into your graveyard on the end step is really nice, because you can use that to recur them later, and it does damage to your opponents.
Yeah, one of the big things with impulse draw, when you don't cast them and they just kind of like an exile, it's really nice to have your tools in the graveyard instead of an exile. So the only awkward thing about this card, I think, is oftentimes you want to hit your land drops with your impulsive draw. So you can't really hit your land drop with this unless you play like a ramp spell before you play your land for the turn, which is a good play, I think. If you like play if you crack your Wayfarer's Bauble on the turn after you play this, and then you hit a land off of the landfall trigger, and then you play that and play another card off it. It's pretty good.
All right, and that's for our red cards. Now we're on to green cards. First we have Ancient Green Warden. Costs 4 and green. It's a 5/7 elemental with reach. It says you may play lands from your graveyard. If a land entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. That's like a Crucible of Worlds, Ramanop Excavator.
It's like the big boy.
Land Panharmonicon. So yeah, I think mostly just landfall decks. You don't want that.
Yeah, I don't think you really want to be playing this if you're not playing a landfall deck. I mean, you can get this effect for half the mana with Ramanop Excavator and before,
and like usually the thing they would do is like that and like Azusa and like a fetch land, and you go crazy. But at 6 mana, probably not gonna want to do that. So I think
stick to the landfall decks for this one. I think
the second part of this is really the useful part, but it's cool. It's pretty neat. And then we got the Inscription of Abundance for 1 and a green. It's a kicker of 2 and a green. It's an instant. Choose 1. If the spell is kicked, choose any number instead. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player gains X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures they control. Or target creature you control fights target creature you don't control.
Yeah, they didn't make the white and red ones for they just left those out of the cycle.
Yeah, that's weird. No, well, like, wasn't there that like Morrow Tumblr post about like play design couldn't figure out how to make these cards good, so we just decided not to do it. So
we just kept the other 3 in the cycle,
so nobody would complain about it.
Yeah, that was funny. But this card, it's okay. I mean, probably the best of the 3 abundance cards because it's 2 mana instead and 3 to kicker, so it's actually reasonably. You can actually get to that kicker dream,
and it's an instant. So I mean, we kind of know that Wizards they like green,
They do like green,
but they made this one so much better than the other ones, and it's still not good, but it's just playable.
Yeah, I think this deck kind of really only fits in that Jumpstart Fight Matters commander deck, or maybe a couple more casual lower power level decks where you kind of just want to fight things as your removal or put counters on your creatures. Not really that good, I'd say.
Yeah, it's fine, but 5 mana for that is
it's a lot.
Not amazing. Then you want to talk about the Horn Beetle?
We can talk about the Horn Beetle.
Iridescent Horn Beetle, 4 and a green. It's a 3/4 insect. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each +1/+1 counter you've put on creatures under your control this turn.
Yes, this is really unassuming. It seems kind of a bad uncommon random card, but there's some subtle nuance to this card that's kind of crazy. And just the fact that it makes a 1/1 for each counter you get. So it's a little bit you can kind of I don't know exactly where this goes, but you can kind of imagine situations where you dare I say it, activate an Oran Reef or whatever and put a counter on all your creatures.
Yeah, I actually misread this the first time. I thought it just counted for every +1/+1 counter put on it that turn. But yeah, if you have 4 creatures and you put a +1/+1 counter on each of them, then you get 4 1/1s on your end step.
Think of it like this: if you landfall with your Zendikar, your Avenger Zendikar, and put a counter on your 7 1/1s, that you get 7 more tokens than your end step. That's a thing. That it's not it's kind of janky, but you can do that. Like, and it's kind of a thing you can
Yeah,
do.
so that's kind of a neat, like,
Yeah.
counters.
Or if you get
token
2
card.
lands, you get 14 1/1s. It's a lot.
And reads Gave deck.
Yeah, there you go. What's next?
We've got
Is it Scoot Swarm?
the Scoot Swarm.
It's Scoot Swarm.
2 and a green, 1/1 insect. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scoot Swarm instead.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes a lot of Scoot Swarms.
Yeah, I love Scoot Swarm because it's obviously a reference to Scoot Mob, which is a old cool creature. But this card is not doing anything when you're getting lands. The making the 1/1 token that isn't a copy of Scoot Swarm, the insect token, it's nothing. You don't think of that. Don't evaluate the card like that. You got to evaluate it of you going out of your way to try to make Scoot Swarm a card. So like playing Scoot Swarm and then like playing Scape Shift or something and like getting a bunch of lands into play, or like playing Scoot Swarm, playing a fetch land, cracking the fetch land, so you have So let me just like run through this real quick. So you play Scoot Swarm, you play a land, you like fetch with it, then all of a sudden you get 2 Scoot Swarms, then 4 Scoot Swarms because it doubles. And then if you like play a Scape Shift or a Ramp Spell or something, you can double that again. So just the exponential growth makes the card interesting. It's probably not good at all, but
Yeah, I don't know if it's probably like good if you're doing that. I don't know if it's worth like the math involved.
no, it's probably not worth the brain
You're like,
power.
"Oh, how many
But-
Scoot Swarms do I get?"
Things that exponentially increase are always fun.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a fun card.
Yeah, I think the end result of that is you just have like 30 some Scoot Swarms.
Yeah, or
1/1s.
or 900 of them. So
Yeah, or 900, yeah.
very cool.
And I think that does it for
All
green cards.
the green cards, yeah.
The only non-legendary multicolored cards we really wanted to mention were Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients, and Nissa of the Shadowed Bows. So Nahiri is a planeswalker, 2, a red and a white, 4 loyalty, has a +1, create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token. You may attach an equipment you control to it. Or -2, look the top 6 cards of your deck. You may reveal a warrior or an equipment card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Or -3, Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients, deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipments you control.
Yeah, so there's kind of a lot of words there. But
Yeah. I don't know if she really does that much.
yeah, like, okay, so Nahiri is fine, but like you really can only play her in a very dedicated equipment deck or a warriors deck, but come on. An equipment deck, most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of warriors are like equipment matters cards, so they kind of go together a little bit. But like, just in a normal deck, just making a 1/1 and then putting an equipment on it is not good enough. You'd rather play the like 4-mana Elspeth or something, the one that makes a 1/1 but can also jump things. But yeah. And with the odds on her -2, like they're like where you look at the top 6 and get a card, like if you have a decent amount of equipment and then also like probably like 6 or 7 warriors, which you probably have, maybe something like that, maybe 5 or 6, you got a good like 60% chance to hit something. It's okay. It can do something. And then her -3, I don't know, like.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like they could have made it like -2, like tutor an equipment to your hand, and they'd still be like fine. Do you think that'd be like too good?
I think it would be very good, because I think it would most of the time just come. You just play it and you just -2 and get like your Skull Clamp or something, or your sword or whatever you need at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be too good, but like it would be quite good, right?
Yeah. But
I mean,
you only really do that like twice, because she comes out 4.
I think the only I think you really to get really good mileage out of Nahiri, you really need to cheat the equip costs on things. So you need to be playing things where they have very expensive equip costs, like Argentum armor is like 6.
Yeah.
So you really need to be equipping those for free for this. Like,
Yeah,
to really
right.
matter.
That plus ability can be good. I don't
Yeah.
think her -3 is like even worth talking about. It's gonna maybe.
I guess you can
kill
shoot
something.
a thing every once in a while, but
Yeah.
you don't want. That's not what you want to be doing with your Nahiri if you can help it.
No.
But she's a card, like it's okay. Like I'm not offended by Nahiri
Yeah,
as
probably.
yeah.
Fine in equipment decks.
Yep.
And Nissa of the Shadowed Bows. It's 2, a black and a green. It's 4 loyalty. Has a landfall ability. Whenever land enters battlefield under your control, put a loyalty counter on Nissa. And then +1, untap target land you control. You may have it become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste and menace until end of turn. It's still a land. Or -5, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard, with 2+1/+1 counters on it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of Nissa?
I think it's kind of better than Nahiri. I don't know how to evaluate that like landfall ability, but her -5 could be pretty good sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, her -5 is really only good if you're reanimating a creature. I feel like it's kind of bad if you're just putting one from your hand on the field.
Yeah,
except for niche situations. But
it's still like cheating the mana cost of it.
Yeah, I suppose. Because you have to pay 4 mana for her, so I mean, you could cheat like a couple mana off of your like 7-drop or something once you have 7 lands. I don't know.
Yeah, and her +1 really can either just like give you a mana or give you a 3/3 until end of turn.
Yeah,
it's not...
I think this is kind of bad. I don't know. Well, I mean, I just don't know why you'd play it. Like, why would you play this over like a reanimate or something, right?
Right.
I guess because you can do it a couple times, but it's -5. So if you do it once, if you activate Nissa once, you get under like 1 or 0 loyalty. Like, you have to really put in work to get her back up to do it a second time. You need to be putting... I know it has the landfall ability, but you need to like plus her twice and hit 3 landfall triggers to be able to activate her minus again. So...
Yeah, the landfall makes it like considerable, but like
yeah, the play pattern that I expect of this card is just going to be like you play Nissa and then you minus it and rebuy your best creature, reanimate the best speed creature in your graveyard, and then like I just don't know if that's really that great.
Yeah, and you already have to have a lot of lands in play.
Yeah, they have to be
able
pretty
to get
big.
anything that big. So,
but I mean, it's okay, I guess. It's better than some of the stinkers.
He's fine. I kind of like the idea of like somebody goes to like swing and kill your Nissa and like you crack a fetch land to like keep her alive.
It is cute, yeah.
It's kind of neat. Yeah, so that's it for the multicolored cards.
Yep, on artifacts.
A couple artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
First one is Forsaken Monument. It's a legendary artifact, costs 5 mana. It says your colorless creatures get +2/+2. And whenever you tap a permanent for colorless mana, you add an additional colorless. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life.
Oh man, that's life gain for your colorless decks. That's obviously that doesn't do anything. The life gain doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mostly just think this goes in most like colorless decks because it's a mana doubler.
Yeah, it does double your wastes and your utility lands that tap for colorless, not just the artifacts and stuff. But it only gives it doesn't double them. It only adds an additional one to be clear. So if you tap your rock that taps for 3, you don't get 6, you get 4.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Basalt Monolith.
Yeah, that goes infinite with this.
Infinite.
Yeah. A lot of things do though. But I mean, yeah, it's okay. Like I think you'd play it. Yeah, like you said, you play it in your
it just seems like I can't think of that many like non-colorless decks. That really, that's not that great.
And like I guess you can pump up your Thopter tokens or something, but I don't think this is something you want.
Yeah, like having artifact decks or colorless decks.
Yeah, that's probably about all you can say for that. So
fine. And we have Lithoform Engine. It's another legendary artifact. 4 mana. For 2 and tap, you can copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. 3 and tap, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Or 4 and tap, copy target permanent spell you control. The copy becomes a token. So that's a pretty new thing. Yeah,
they had this, and the kicker legend that we didn't talk about also had that ability where you could copy a spell with kicker, and if it was a permanent, it would do that. That is a new thing. They haven't done that before. They've never let you copy permanent spells, I believe.
Yeah.
So that we got new templating for that. That's cool.
I think this card is probably pretty good. Could go in most decks, I think.
This card does seem like the kind of card that you don't want your opponent to untap with. I would say, like, because if you just think about like a situation, like it's so versatile. It's actually crazy. So they can pretty much double anything that they do. If they wanna play a removal spell, they can pay 2 more mana or 3 more mana to copy it and do a second removal spell. If they wanna, clone their creature, they can pay 4 mana to clone their creature. If they wanna, well, not on the field, but when they're casting it. If they wanna copy a trigger ability, 2 mana, do that. It's really good, and also like, interestingly enough, you can do things like counter someone's spell, and then if they like counter your spell back, you can be like, ah ha ha, I copy my instant or sorcery, and then counter it again.
Yeah,
it's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just like have to be careful about like how many cards somebody has when they untap it, because like the best, if you imagine like the best thing that they could cast, think of how bad it is if they're going to do it twice.
Yeah, they do have to pay 3 more mana, but if they have like 8 mana and they like go Time Warp, copy my Time Warp, like you're not going to probably have another turn or something. Right. It's going to be rough.
It's also kind of neat and like maybe like populate decks or like Brutaclad and stuff
you
like
can
that.
make tokens of your non-token creatures.
Make a token of some cool creatures.
I like that.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool card.
And also there are plenty triggered abilities that you are very happy to copy for 2 mana.
Like I play like Stronic Resonator and like Gonti deck, so I don't know.
Yep. So this is it's just really, I would say it's kind of a kill on sight artifact, but like I don't know about that, but it feels like it. It feels like it will be. I'm not sure.
And then our last artifact, or no, second to last artifact.
Yep.
Myriad Construct. It's an artifact creature, 4 mana. It's a 4/4 construct with a kicker cost of 3. If Myriad Construct was kicked, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each non-basic land your opponents control. And when Myriad Construct becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it and create a number of 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature tokens equal to its power.
Yeah, this is probably the only card in the set that's going to be bigger than that crab.
It's bigger than the crab. It can fight the crab.
Yeah, no, but on a base level, like this just seems like okay. Like it's a 4 mana 4/4 that when it gets targeted, then you get 4 1/1s. That's okay. Like you could play that, I guess. But the kicker's the interesting part, right?
Yeah. So by the time you have 7 mana to play this, it counts all your opponents, so they probably each have like 4 or 5.
People play a lot of non-basic lands.
Yeah, people play mostly non-basic lands, so this thing's gonna be like a 16/16 or bigger.
Honestly, like I wouldn't be surprised if you played this on like turn 7 and it was like a 15/15 or something, and then you just like have a big boy, and then they try to remove it, and you're like, well, now I have 15 1/1s. That gets in too. Like they can't just jump block like 15 1/1s. Like it's kind of a cool card, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
This might be a good one to make a copy of with that that last card. Okay, but this last card's awesome.
Yeah, we got a Skyclave Relic for 3 mana. It's an artifact, has a kicker of 3, and it's indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you create 2 tapped tokens that are copies of Skyclave Relic, and it taps for 1 mana of any color.
So this has got to be one of the best 3 mana rocks, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like a top 5, something like that.
Yeah, I'm personally like not a huge fan of like 3 mana rocks, but this one, the versatility to kind of be like in a way like a better Gilded Lotus is kind of neat.
Yeah, they can't even like single target removal your Gilded Lotus because you have 3 of them and they're indestructible. Like,
yeah, and I think there's times where you have like a Gilded Lotus, like it taps for 3 of one color. Like if you have 3 of these, you can tap them each for a different color and just hold up your mana better.
Yep.
It's less abusable maybe, but like you can't get blown out so much where you pay like 5 for a Gilded Lotus and then somebody pays 1 mana to destroy it.
Yeah, this is a strictly better Darksteel Ingot, which people still play. I mean, I think Darksteel Ingot's kind of lost its power over the years, but like when you compare this to like the other 3 mana artifact, 3 mana rocks, like Commander's Sphere and like
Commander's Sphere,
Chromatic Lantern, and whatever. But this card I think slots in like with those staples. I think seems very good.
Yeah.
Right now we got the land spells, right? The double face cards.
Yeah, modal double face cards. So these are really interesting. They're effectively like how we kind of see them is sort of like cycling lands for the most part, because most of these do enter tapped. There's a few that don't. We're gonna go into that, but I think some people might want to think like you just play these like a bunch of these in like every deck because the worst case scenario they're land, but they do enter tapped, and personally we don't think that playing too many tap lands is ever a great idea.
Yeah, and the reason that they're kind of akin to cycling lands is because they're often kind of overcosted spells. So if you and we're talking about the 1 mana cycling lands, the single color lands that cycle for like a white or whatever. If you draw one of those lands and then you cycle it and then you draw like a spell to play, like that's kind of akin to having a land which in your hand could be like kind of a more expensive spell. So they're a little similar. It's a little bit of a bad comparison, but like it's a way to think about them.
Yeah, they're just like they have a consistent effect.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of these, especially the mythic ones, are very cool and powerful. So
yeah, the mythic rare cycle of these, I think, the real hot take is I think they probably go in most decks that can play them, or at least like one of them. Like maybe you wouldn't play like all 5 of them in like a 5-color.
Yeah,
deck.
probably not. But
in like monocolor decks especially, I think it's a really low opportunity cost to play them. And the reason for that, we'll go over this first one. It's a Miria's Call for 4 and 3 white. It's a sorcery. You create 2 4/4 white angel warrior creature tokens with flying. Then non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Mm-hmm. So that's not very efficient. 7 mana is a lot for that. I mean, 2 4/4 angels with flying, like that's pretty okay. The kind of board wipe protection until your next turn. I like that effect. Like,
it's cool.
You haven't really seen that like on a white card before, where it says like indestructible until your next turn.
Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't play this alone. You wouldn't play this if that was full stop.
Right. If that was all it did, like that does not seem like a mythic rare, but it's a double face card where the other side is Emeria Shattered Skyclave. It's a land. As Emeria Shattered Skyclave enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped, and it taps for a white mana.
Yep.
So pretty much, this can always just count as like a land slot in your deck, and you don't have to worry about it coming into play tapped. If you really need that untapped that turn, you can just pay it the 3 life, and that's pretty incidental.
Yep. It's pretty powerful. That actually we should say, I guess, these lands you can play from your hand for either side. You can play it as a spell, or you can play it as a land on the second face. But yeah, the fact that these are able to come in untapped or tapped, depending on what you want, like you don't even have to lose. It's not like it always makes you lose 3 life. You can also just like play it tapped if you don't need to use the mana. Really means that the opportunity cost of playing this card is like really like not that bad. Like you just like you might as well just play these cards, honestly, unless of course you're playing a very like color restrictive deck.
Yeah, I mean, none of them are really that competitive, but like I think I would always like the option of having this, because like you can keep an opening hand with this in as like one of your lands, and then like late in the game, like it just protects you against flood, because like yeah, that is a lot to get those angels and that effect, but like
it might be a game for playing.
If you're like top decking that, like that might just like kind of save you.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we think Emeria's Call is pretty good, so
yeah, I think that is pretty okay. Then the only other white one we want to talk about is Ondu Inversion for 6 and white. It's a sorcery. Destroy all non-land permanents.
Yep, and then the other side is a...
Or you can play it as Ondu Sky Ruins, which is a land, enters battlefield tapped, and taps for a white. Now that's obviously kind of an overcosted board wipe, but again, you could probably play this one as a land slot. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I was in the position where late in the game and I top decked a land, like rather than like having a cycling land, like you usually want to top deck like a board wipe later in the game unless you're winning.
Yeah. And
I could see playing this. I think I might try it out.
It definitely seems like a reasonable card. Just make sure that you don't have too many tapped lands in your deck, so so your deck can function.
Yeah.
But one of the slots could easily be filled by this, and you could be pretty happy with it, I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid effect.
Mm-hmm.
And for blue, the mythic rare is Seagate Restoration. Costs 4 and 3 blue. It's a sorcery. Draw cards equal the number of cards in your hand plus 1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. On the other side, it is Seagate Reborn. It's a land, and it has that. If it enters... When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped.
Same as the white one, except
yeah,
blue.
just like Emeria.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think this is
similar.
It's really solid, because again, you can just play it as the land, and otherwise, if you have a bunch of mana late in the game and you need cards,
draw some cards. Yeah.
At the very worst, you're gonna. I mean, you could maybe like draw 2 cards or something, but
yeah. I mean, like if you got it, I mean, it's just a land in your deck. If the card spell's not going to be good, just play it as a land, tapped or untapped, whatever fits your curve. So it's really low opportunity cost, so it's just very powerful, I'd say. Yeah. I don't think you're going to be casting these spells a lot, but when you do, you'll be like, wow, I'm glad I have that.
Yeah, there's a lot of games like you'll be low on gas and later in the game, and you'll top deck a land and you'll have like 10 lands in play and it sucks, and this is always just going to be better than that. Like, sure, this one will just pretty much like cycle itself if you top deck that late in the game, but it's also in blue, so that's probably not happening. It shouldn't happen.
True.
Hopefully, you're better at playing blue than I am, so...
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Then the rare is Glasspool Mimic. For 2 and a blue, it's a creature shapeshifter rogue. It's a 0/0, but you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue in addition to its other types.
Yep, and it has that.
Yeah, you can play it as Glasspool Shore, which is a land that enters battlefield tapped and taps for blue. So this one I think is also pretty okay, and you can just play it as a land. And I think there's a lot of decks like flicker based decks or like ETB decks.
Yeah, decks that want to do clone shenanigans, stuff like that. Like it's definitely powerful. Like you like clones usually cost 4 mana. They've made one recently that cost 3 like this. That only copy your stuff, but when the cost of running it in your deck is just a land, I think you can slide something like this in, and it's gonna be okay. And if it's not okay, you can just play it as a land.
Yeah, I think this is good in decks like Ruin or something, where you want to like repeat like your own like enter the battlefield effects that you already have. And
the times when it's bad is when you don't have any creatures to copy, and then there's the second mode.
Yeah, then you just play it as a tap land for your turn.
Yep. So pretty solid. Good. Yep.
For black, we have Agadeem's Awakening. Costs X and 3 black. It's a sorcery. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. And on the other side, it is Agadeem, the Undercrypt, where it enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters tapped, and it taps for a black. This one, I think it's stronger than the white and the blue ones.
I think it's the best one so far, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to cost a lot of mana to like make that ability like really, or that effect really worth it.
But especially in like a mono black deck, which is where I would expect this card to be most common. Like you are doing the Urborg things with Cabal Coffers, and you can pretty easily get 10 mana. So X is 7 for this card, and then you can just reanimate like 4 things. Like it can be pretty powerful, I'd say.
Yeah, I think X equals even like
4,
like you said. Like that's pretty.
You could get back like a, I don't know, Falcon Wrath, Noble, or Aristocrat, whichever one draws a card, and like a couple of their cards, like a 2-drop and a 4-drop, and then like you're fine.
Yeah, and again, just you can play it as a land too, so why not?
Seems very powerful.
And then the rare is a Hagra Mauling for 2 and black. It's an instant. It costs 1 less to cast if an opponent controls no basic lands. It says destroy target creature. Or you can play it as Hagra Brood Pit, which is a land that enters battlefield tapped and taps for a black. So I think you almost always like want to have a decent amount of removal in your deck.
Modal Murder sounds pretty okay.
And like, yeah, you wouldn't want to pay 4 to destroy target creature, but with that option to play it as a land, again,
it's definitely a card you can consider for your deck, I'd say. Yeah. Quite reasonable. And oftentimes someone will have no basics, especially if you're playing it like early-ish.
Yeah, that's true. It just says if an opponent controls no basic lands. So if you have just one person without a basic, you can play it for 3, and that's not terrible.
Especially if you got someone at your table that's has a little bit of a bigger budget than everyone else. You just got to pick on them.
Yeah. And then for red, we have Shatter Skull Smashing. Costs X and 2 red. Shatter Skull Smashing deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, Shatter Skull Smashing deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. And on the other side, it is Shatter Skull, the Hammer Pass. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters battlefield tapped, and it taps for red. So this one, it's obviously like the rest of them, kind of like an overcosted effect, and that doesn't seem that great because let's see, you got to pay 6 into it for it to really be amazing.
Yeah,
and then it's 8 mana, but that's deal 12 damage at that point, divided as you choose
among 2 creatures,
among 2 things, creatures and or planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So if you pay it for X equals 6, you're definitely killing 2 big things.
Mm-hmm. And that's honestly kind of all you want, right? It has the versatility of casting it for 4, and then you just ping 2 dudes or something. Like you kill a Bloom Tender and a looter or something, right? That, it can do that. You're not going to be happy all the time, but when you need to kill a mana dork, you need to kill a mana dork. It just lets you do that. So it's very nice that it has these different modes. If it was just 6 red, do the 6 thing, I think it'd be a lot worse.
Yeah, I think this one actually out of all of them scales better throughout the game because like you said, you could just play it for X equals 2 and kill some key creature when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
That's not great, but it's one you actually might want to cast earlier in the game. And then later, you're just definitely destroying 2 things, and it can hit planeswalkers, so I think that's pretty big.
Yep. So the card's pretty good, I'd say.
Then we have Valakut Awakening.
Oh man, I love this
2 in a red. It's an instant. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards +1. Or it's Valakut Stoneforge. There's battlefield tapped and taps for a red.
This card is sweet.
Yeah, this is like we were mentioning how they're kind of like cycling cards. This is like a super cycler. It can just cycle out your entire hand pretty much.
Yeah, any number of cards.
Yeah,
any number. And you go ahead.
You keep the gas. You get to choose. So,
and it make the problem with these cards often is that you shuffle. You play the spell, you shuffle 3 back, and you draw 3, and now you're down a card on the exchange. But with this card, this printing of it, they say draw that many cards +1, so you're not losing a card. It cantrips itself, so it's really, really good. You get to get rid of all of your lands, your bad spells. Maybe if you need lands, you can pitch a couple spells that aren't lands, and then you should really just smooth out your draws and be a really valuable card, especially with land tax.
Yeah, not everyone has a land tax, but I love playing land tax, and with this, you can just ship away all the lands that you pulled out of your deck. And then it puts them back in your deck, too, so you can just keep land taxing after that.
Yeah, it doesn't even discard. It doesn't even, exile them or discard them or anything.
Yeah, so that's this one's pretty awesome. And instant speed makes it really nice, too.
Yeah, and you can play this in Grenzo and put a creature on the bottom, and then... But, yeah.
Then for green, the rare out of this cycle... We didn't know if it was really worth talking about because it's just kind of it's a 3-mana 3/3 that landfall gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
Just kind of a chunker.
So it's just kind of a beater. But we wanted to talk about Balaged Recovery, which is 2 and a green for a sorcery, and it says return target card from your graveyard to your hand, or you can play it as Balaged Sanctuary, which enters the battlefield tapped and taps for green. So that's a regrowth effect or a land. Which I think is, again, better than, just a cycling land.
Yep.
Because you want to play regrowths. You want to have recursion in your deck. And I think that's just always a nice thing to have.
Certainly. And it is, it's 3 mana, which is overcost for regrowth. But again, the versatility is really what you're paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And then we have Turn Timber Symbiosis.
This is the mythic.
Yeah. For 4 and 3 green, it's a sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them on the battlefield. If that card has converted mana cost 3 or less, it enters with 3 additional +1/+1 counters on it. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then it's Turn Timber Serpentine Wood on the other side. It's a land, enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped and taps for green.
Mm-hmm.
So this one again, super solid. You should usually hit something out of 7 cards.
Yeah, very high percentage of the time, 80% with 20 creatures. So
yeah,
it's a lot.
And then if it's a small creature, it even makes it bigger. So so this one probably is pretty good out of that cycle.
Yeah, I think this the red one or the black one are the best for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure which one, but I might edge in the black one. But this card definitely is very powerful. I think you can understand the play sequence of oh, I don't have anything to do, so I get the best creature out of my top 7. Makes sense, right? Seems good. And then, I mean, honestly, like the getting an E-Witness back that is a 5, or what is that, 5/4, like, and then you get this back to your hand, like, you could do that. Like, that's a thing you can do.
Well, this one too, like, has the potential to like get more than like its mana.
It's mana cost. You can get like an 8-drop.
Yeah, you can 8-drop, like a 10-drop, like.
Yeah. You get an Avacyn with this and be like, I got an Avacyn now.
Yeah,
it's very good. And one thing I just want to mention about just these modal dual-faced spell land cards is that I suspect that like there's a lot of like hidden synergy with them with random cards that you don't think of right away that I think makes them just a little bit better than your first initial reaction might be. Like, for example, you can like Spell Seeker for like land drops. Obviously, you can get like your land drops Thought Seized, not in Commander, of course, but like it is there's a couple downsides but a lot of upsides. Like, for example, with like in like a Mina and Den deck, which allows you to return your lands from the battlefield to your hand. You can play your land in the early game, and then in the late game, when you have a ton of mana, return your spell land to your hand and cast it, and get and play this green one, and get the best creature in your top 7.
That's really cool. Apparently, you can also like if you have an effect like what's it called that lets you play lands off the top of your deck.
Oh, Corsair Crewfix or Oracle of Moldiah.
Yeah, Oracle of Moldiah.
You can play these?
You can play these off the top of your deck.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool. But yeah, so there's a lot of cool hidden synergy that I think we'll just find more and more of it as time goes on. Because they're such new effects, you don't think of them like that.
Yeah, then the last thing we need to talk about is the new cycle of the Pathway lands.
Mm-hmm.
They only did
6 of them, right?
6 out of 10. That's weird. Like
I think they chose... I think the way they did it was they chose one wedge or whatever or something, and I don't remember how, but then they like did all the combinations. I don't remember exactly. There was some weird way with how they decided which ones to do, but
yeah, so these are lands that as you play them you can decide which color pretty much it's going to come in and tap for, and they enter untapped, so you can get like they've got a green or white one, white or black, blue or black, red or green, white or red, or blue or red.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are like people still play stuff like Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse sometimes, and like unless you have like the synergy to like with landfall or like recurring that land, like these are better fixing than those for the most part.
Yeah, unless you like are in a 5-color deck where you really need like a specific color, but
right.
Like these I think these are generally they're worse than Shocklands for sure, because Shocklands stick around and give you both colors. They're worse than duels, of course. They're worse than Shocks, worse than duels. But they're definitely better than... I think they're better than some 2-color lands that conditionally enter play untapped. So, like... Or... Yeah, so I guess the check lands, you could argue which one's better. These don't have the basic land types. Check lands don't either, but, like... You could argue check lands are better or these are better, but I think these are quite good.
Yeah, like these will always enter to untap no matter what point in the game you're in.
Yeah. So these are probably just like if you're playing a 2-color deck and your 2 colors are one of these combinations, you definitely would want to play the land over not playing it.
Yeah, I think so.
3-color decks, probably the same thing. So yeah, these are just like pretty powerful, I'd say.
Yeah, hopefully they finish that cycle at some point. I don't know where they're gonna fit that in, but
the only weird thing is that like they'd have to do more than 10, because the way that it works is like they'd have to like make a combination for each color on the front with a different one on the back. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think I see what you mean.
Yeah, because like you have you can have a white black land, and you can also have a black white land with white being on the front and black being on the front.
I wonder if they'll do that.
I don't know if they will or not. I think they'll probably not, but we'll see.
Yeah, it would be the same thing pretty much. But
yep.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all the cards we got to go over. What do you think of Zendikar Rising for EDH?
I think overall Zendikar Rising is a pretty cool set. There's a lot of interesting, like, they did print a bunch of interesting 6-drops, some cool stuff, like the green guy that makes forest lands, the red Minotaur, all that stuff, and some good efficient cards like the Merfolk and the Wizard that copies your spells, stuff like that. So I'm pretty happy overall with the kind of breadth of cards we got here.
Yeah, I love that they made a set with a lot of good commander cards without making anything like, aside from maybe like Morag that is like necessarily like busted.
Yeah.
Maybe lithoform engine. We'll have to see on that. I mean, the thieving skydiver.
Yeah.
That's probably fine. But yeah, I think it's a pretty fair and balanced set, and there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm excited for it. I got a lot of cards I'm gonna test out and play.
Sweet.
Do you have a favorite pick?
Yeah, I think. Well, my favorite card is Scoot Swarm, but besides, for a more measured pick, for like power level, would probably be. I think I would go with the Skydiver, and I think maybe a second choice would be Morag, whatever, the Minotaur.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my pick is I love lands. They're my second favorite card type in Magic after creatures, and I love doing like fun cutesy things with like my mana bases, and I always play like probably way too many lands in my deck just because I love them. But I really like the new Mythic cycle of lands, and I'm gonna say my favorite out of those is probably Shatter Skull Smashing.
Card's awesome.
I think I could see myself playing that in every deck I play with red, and just never feeling bad about it.
Yeah, well, so really, really happy with the Zendikar Rising overall, and pretty excited to play with the cards.
Yeah, seems like an awesome set, and we're gonna hopefully test these out soon. Set releases in a couple weeks now.
Yeah, one week from now or so. Yeah,
and yeah, we'll play with those cards and hopefully be right back at you with some more EDH takes. I've been Elijah Samuelson,
and I'm Spencer Cook.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.